Welcome to the Employer Exchange. I'm Tony Interlandi from Monarch Law. We interview business owners who have stories about their experience as employers. We interview big employers, small employers, and everyone in between. My guest today is Dan Field, web consultant extraordinaire, founder and CEO of Momentum Marketing in Cheshire, Connecticut. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing great, Tony.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I had a few trials at the end of last year, but now getting back into the swing of the podcast. Happy to have you as my first guest back.
Great. Let's do this.
Tell me about Momentum Marketing.
So we evolved over the years. We're about 10 years old at this point. And believe it or not, we started as a door-to-door sales company contracting for some big companies like Comcast and Cox Communications. And that was sort of what kicked it off. We built a pretty amazing team of about 75 sales reps at our best.
Wow.
Across four states. And it was a trip for sure. That's a wild industry to be in. It was very lucrative at the time. And of course, that industry has changed quite a bit in telecom. And we've sort of taken what worked well for scaling that business out and applying it in general for other businesses in more of a digital marketing fashion.
Tell me what you're doing now, the types of services you and your team are providing to your clients.
Excellent. Yeah. So we're a digital marketing agency in general, right? And that's a real blanket statement. But our main focus is creating high converting websites that actually generate revenue. That's the point. It seems obvious that that's what they're supposed to do, but you'd be surprised how many times people build a online business card or just check the box that they have a website and think that's enough. And we really try to start holistically with making a business's website the best salesperson in their company and actually linking it to the first step in their sales process so they have a system to respect and follow that they can actually scale.
Designing websites and providing extra services to help generate leads and more business for your customers.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, calling on them websites is almost feels insulting in a way. We actually refer to them as client acquisition systems. And so it's definitely fair to say I'm a systems guy. I have a heavy background in automations and coding. And of course, AI now is huge. And being able to combine all three of those things so we can eliminate, prioritize, automate, and delegate workflows is what we're all about.
So you guys listen to the end and hear what Dan would bring with him to a deserted island. How would he survive for 2 weeks? What do you have in place to help business owners who have that presence online to gather or collect qualified leads they could convert into business?
There's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach, obviously, but the general goal of it is to be able to lead with value, give everything for free, and ask if you need help. And also to be able to put yourself out there in a way that's authentic and genuine. And so I'm a big advocate of authentic content, putting yourself on video, even if you don't love being the center of attention all the time, and letting people get to know you before they have to reach out and have a phone call or book a meeting, because people don't want to do that. They just want to get to the information right away. And so you want to give them what they need to see. Ultimately, every business is different, like I said, but there's some really core things that I feel like most businesses need. First of all, it's clarifying your message, getting crystal clear on what you do, how it's making people's lives better, and what you're actually supposed to do next. What's the first step of the process I'm supposed to take? And that essentially spells out the clarity component of it. Then, of course, it's calling out a specific type of customer, your ideal customer, your archetype, ICP, all sorts of different ways to say it, but ultimately asking them questions that make them feel heard. If you're for everybody, it might not be a good fit, but if you're calling out exactly how they feel, what they're dealing with, they're going to think about it a little differently and say, hey, that's exactly what I'm dealing with right now. Okay, you got my attention. Of course, building value in how you're solving the unique problems that they're facing right now, showcasing your authority, your social proof, testimonials, all those sorts of things, and ultimately positioning yourself as the obvious choice to solve the unique problems that they're facing.
Are you creating these automated workflows, a platform you're providing to clients, or do you have a team? Earlier, you said you started with a large team, I think 75 employees or more. What does Momentum Marketing look like today?
So we build out systems. Sort of indifferent about the tech stack. There's a lot of great technology out there. So of course I have some favorites that I like, but people bring all sorts of great stuff to the table. It doesn't matter if you're on HubSpot or Salesforce or High Level or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on WordPress or Wix or Shopify. We can link with it all. and we can make them all talk with each other. And yes, I had a team of 75 sales reps, and that was largely a contractor role. I am sort of running a lean operation in a sense where I've had employees, and it just makes more sense in this line of business to focus heavily on contractors, especially since COVID. Like, let's be fair,
Right.
COVID normalized working from home
Yeah.
and working remotely. And there's just like a lot of really great software out there to still be able to create that accountability. So, people are actually working and doing what they say they're doing. There's ways to track and look at the production and measure capacity, and ultimately just have respect for your staff and their schedules and their lives. And so that's what it looks like nowadays. Much less on the sales side, instead of working for these Fortune 500s, just doing sales only. Now we're obviously doing sales and fulfillment and the whole process and selling our own products and services. I refer to myself as a web consultant. I am sort of addicted to learning things though, and have been my whole life. So I really have a heavy background in a lot of areas, from coding and software development to photography and video to sales. It's all of these things sort of contribute into me masterminding these type of systems initially, and ultimately leaning on my team to back me up. I enjoy hiring people that are smarter than me. So right now we're a team of 9. I have a project manager, operations manager, content manager. We have web developers, video editors, and it's really great. Everybody has their role and contributes a lot to our team.
And my understanding, based on our prior conversations, is that your team is 100% remote. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I do have some contractors that I use locally, especially for a lot of ongoing video work and photography.
Right.
So I do have local team members, but I do hire around the world, to be fair. I get a lot of great results from South America and the Philippines. Those areas tend to get candidates that work well. Obviously, South America has a lot of great bilingual candidates. And in the Philippines, I feel like that whole country seems to be okay working normal American hours, even though it's kind of like the graveyard shift for them.
I know you have a really interesting process. Why don't you tell the listeners or the viewers what you developed so you ensure the person you pick is a really good fit?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, working in door to door, you deal with a lot of interesting characters. And I can't tell you how many times I would have people show up in my office that were just clearly not going to be a good fit, or the opposite. They're telling me how great of a salesperson they are. And, if you're a really great salesperson, usually you're not looking for a job. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's really hard to take somebody's word at face value, especially when you're a good sales rep. You typically are pretty good at BSing. So there's a lot that I went through there. And I realized for me to just take every single person in the room and spend all my time one-on-one interviewing was just not sustainable. It wasn't going to get me the right candidates. And so it started there, but then evolved into something absolutely insane that I refer to as the gauntlet. Please feel free to use it if you get some value out of it. There's a pretty long process. I'll do my best to keep it as short and sweet as possible. The first thing is getting crystal clear about what the role is. Like, what are we hiring for? So in this situation, let's just say I'm looking for a web developer. And if that's the case, I really want to understand what that role is, what they're going to be working on exactly, and just create a job description that's fair. And this is fair for the staff member as well, too, because a lot of times when we hire people, it's like, hey, you could do this and do that. And then the role changes a lot. So I feel like we get better results when you focus on people's strengths and really lean into that. So I create a ad of some sort, and I source candidates from all over the place. There's many job boards, Facebook groups, wherever. It doesn't matter, but the more the merrier. And inside the ad, I feel like it's really important to put something to make sure that people are actually paying attention. So I say something silly, like I pepper in at the very bottom, just to make sure you're paying attention. Please make the first thing that you say when you respond, let's rock, or something along those lines. And a lot of people, when they're applying, they're just mass applying to everything, putting in their resume, copying and pasting something, or just using ChatGPT to respond. And it's so obvious, when I see the typical ChatGPT things, gone. I don't even want to look at it. We're looking for people who are actually looking for a job and are serious and are the right fit.
So let's rock at the beginning. I may miss it because I tend to be very fast in what I do.
Yeah. It's the, too long didn't read, right? And so attention to detail is really important to what we do.
Yeah.
If you're a developer, I don't want you missing things. So make the first thing you respond to, the first thing you say when you respond to this, let's rock. Something along those lines. It could be whatever is funny for you. I just like to be goofy. And so that filters out a lot. Like I would say half the candidates right away. So sometimes I on average, I would end up with about 200 candidates. Let's just say for round numbers that we get it down to about 100 with that. After that, I would send out a video application. And so I use some various softwares. For this one, I like to use something called Video Ask. And I can essentially record myself asking interview questions. And I'm going to send it to them. And it looks a lot like this, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, tell me a little bit about your background and your experience developing websites. And I'm going to ask those questions on a asynchronous video interview, and they have to respond to that on video. And to me, that's way better than interviewing 100 candidates on Zoom. I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
And it's just not an efficient use of time. That's also a qualifier because a lot of people aren't going to be comfortable getting on video. But guess what? I don't care just about the skills that you have. I want to see how you present yourself.
Yeah.
I want to check out your mannerisms. There's so many like nonverbals that tell you a lot about somebody. And so that alone, again, is going to be a disqualifier or a qualifier. And so at the end of the day, I am able to take all of the things that they say, which are transcribed, run through AI, and actually pre-filter it all for me to determine who is actually answering the things in a way that makes them a top candidate or not. And it will filter that list out. And I can basically take the top 10 at that point and actually go through and listen to them all myself. Like, wow, I really like this guy. Or, I don't know, something's off here. And at that point, I'm really not done yet. I'll narrow it down to, somewhere like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It really depends on the applicants. And at that point, I can't tell. That's about as far as I can narrow it down before I get to know people, because you're not really talking. It's like dating, right? You're not really talking to the person. You're talking to their agent. You're talking to the person that they want you to see. And you really don't get to experience somebody until you actually work with them or live with them or date them for a while, right? And so basically what I do is I just tell people straight up, we've had a ton of really great applicants. This is a hard decision for us to make. And so what I'd like to propose is hiring you and giving you a task, like a normal day in the life of what it would be like to work with us. And I'm happy to pay you your rate, and we'll see how it goes from there. Does that sound good? And like 9 times out of 10, yes. Again, a qualifier. And so at that point, I would take the exact same task that I already have had queued up. Let's just say, for example, it was a web developer again, and I would spin up 10 different instances of WordPress, all ready to go with the exact same task that I know is going to take somebody about 15 hours, and I'm going to give them 8. And I'm going to send it to all of them at the exact same time, right when they're supposed to start every day, like 9 a.m., and they have until 5 p.m. And so everything is scheduled to go out to that person with clear instructions that they should be able to follow. And if they need help, they can reach out to the project manager that they would be working with anyway, knowing that they shouldn't have to based on the instructions. So they're welcome to if something isn't clear, but it sort of knocks a few points off, if that makes sense at the end. And so then we just let the work speak for itself. At the end of the day, we look over what everybody did, how far they got. A lot of times we'll throw curveballs in there. It's like, I want the project manager to actually have a conversation and meet these candidates. So right in the middle of the day, it's like, hey, Frank, I got Tony. He wants to connect with you real quick and say hi. Right. And of course, they're like frantic. They're trying to do everything. And it's a little crazy. We need you to be able to just go off the cuff and do things. It also is a way for the project manager to get a feel for who they're going to be managing and have that quick conversation. Of course, we're trying to keep it to like 5 minutes, just real quick. Right. And then, and then we make the decision. Sometimes it's real hard. We narrow it down to 2 or 3. And at that point, I will usually have a one-on-one interview. I will make the best decision that I can at that point to hire the right person. And we usually like to keep 1 or 2 candidates on deck just in case that person doesn't work out. There's something to be said for work ethic. And typically when people don't show up for work one day, or they have some sort of a crisis and it happens like 2 or 3 times in the same week, especially when it's like the first week, that stuff typically keeps happening over and over again. And it's just like a pattern. Like certain people attract that kind of stuff into their life, and other people just lead more stable lives. And unfortunately, that's a really important thing. Even if you're a good, a good developer or a great salesperson, like the example you gave me earlier, it doesn't matter, because I'd rather have a strong, solid team of B players, A and B players, than somebody who thinks they're great and all of a sudden is just not responsible, and I'm not able to keep up with the capacity, right? Like everything that they do is something that I have to be accountable for to my clients and to everybody else on my team. And so if somebody's not pulling their weight, it really can be damaging and detrimental all the way around. There's been times where I hire somebody, we're really great with it, and then a week later, I'm like, this isn't going to be a good fit. And then I have to take the next runner up. But very rarely will I have to do number 2 or get to number 3 at that point. And the people that we have in our team, just to be fair, have been with us for 8 or 9 years. When I say I hire remotely, I talk to these people more than I talk to my own family half the time. It's
Absolutely.
like they have been with me for a long time, and I have got so much love from my team. They back me up. So yeah, it's an interesting landscape in business nowadays. I really love the dynamic. I can be way more efficient in this medium here than having to drive out and meet people and go through that whole process. I can serve my clients at a much better level. And to be fair, if we're working with digital marketing, I'm going to be showing you things on the computer and screen sharing with you. Does it make sense for me to really come out and bring my laptop?
I love the gauntlet. When you were telling the runners up, hey, you didn't get it, but they did provide service, you're paying them for the work they did, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I heard you say, a lot of these team members have been with you for a while. Are you hiring for part-time basis or for certain projects that are a limited duration?
Yeah, great question. So a couple things to unpack on that one. I hear a lot of people when I say that or go through the gauntlet, like, you hire 10 people? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, isn't that expensive? Yeah, but not as expensive as hiring the wrong person and paying the wrong person who's not producing at the highest level, who isn't the best fit for the role, and not figuring that out for 2 years. That's expensive. So I'd much rather pay it outright. And yes, I let them down in a very respectful way. I know what I'm doing sounds like, I don't know, kind of crazy, and maybe like, like I'm putting people through a gauntlet. I understand that. I'm like building these mazes for them to go through. And I don't want to treat them as expendable, but I have to be strategic in my decision-making process. It's very, very, very important. And so, yes, I would have that conversation one-on-one. It wouldn't just be a templated email I made with AI. Okay. So, and the other part of it is I don't really hire for ad hoc work. In this stage of the business, I'm not looking to do any custom work. I'm only taking productized offers that I have that I know are a win-win. Yeah. That I know without a shadow of a doubt that I can move the needle in our client's business. And that means that we've done this over and over and over again, and I can spot a clear winner. Yeah. And so with that, my team, I think my newest guy has been with me for 9 or 10 months, and it was only because we had to expand. Okay. We're growing at a crazy basis. So no, I don't really hire anybody for one-offs, although I do have some close friends, actually, just because we're all into video, that I will contract with to go and shoot some video work when it makes sense. As much as I love that stuff and I have a ton of gear, it's just not the highest and best use of my time. So I've had to get out of my own way, if that makes sense, and not do those things. And I'm happy to give that work to other people who are really passionate.
I really appreciate you sharing your hiring process and the gauntlet. It's amazing. It is time to hear what you would bring with you on a deserted island, going there for 2 weeks. You can only bring one thing. What is it going to be?
All right. You caught me off guard with that question. I feel like I could have come up with a really clever answer, but I would just have to say a solar powered coffee maker, because I don't know if I could handle life without coffee. And maybe it would give me enough mental energy to create a boat, a life raft, and get off this island.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife and I are rewatching Lost. We're towards the end of the first season, and they're just about finished building the second boat. And so we were laughing. And also, if you didn't know, yesterday was National Joe Day, March 27th. Shout out to my brother Joe. And but it's to have a cup of Joe with someone named Joe, or with Joe in his or her name. We've only had 8 episodes so far, but not a solar powered coffee maker. I love it. I'm going to throw a bonus question in because we have a little time. Boy. My bonus question comes along the line of questions that I ask when I'm interviewing new employees to join our team. It's a fun question. If you could have one superpower, what would you ask for? And why?
That's a tough one.
And as you think, I'm going to tell you, I just hired virtual assistant. I had 4 candidates. I did video interviews, and they were all great. 2 of them gave me kind of a generic answer, which was, mind reading. And then another one was a really good answer, which was to be able to time travel, right? To go back in time so that she could see her relatives and ancestors. And I connected with that. But the person that I picked, and not necessarily because of this answer, I really liked her answer. And that was, she wanted the power of manifestation. So she could come up with anything she needed. If she needed water, money, food, car, she could just manifest it into being and she would have whatever she wanted. So basically, like an unlimited genie bottle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So
So,
it sounds like she just wants a genie.
so knowing that, that background, I'm going to kick it back over to you.
Yeah, I feel like it has something to do with omnipotence, right? Like just knowing all, right? I really am so addicted to constant and never-ending improvement. All my life, it's actually almost been a problem because I get obsessed with learning things, and that's why I love the space so much. Is just new emerging technology all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get shiny object syndrome when you have all these great things that are happening. It's such an exciting space. And so I think the capacity to truly know it all and like understand it at that level, almost like what's that? I'm trying to think of the movie where he takes the drug and he all of a sudden he like knows everything.
Limit.
And as much as I want to be able to put one project down, there's 100 more that I could pick up. So I have to be very selective. And
For sure.
if I didn't have to, I feel like that would be amazing.
Let me know if there are any upcoming projects you're working on, any new services, or just your social media platforms where people can find you or your website.
Yeah. So we're always looking for business owners who are looking to get more leads, more sales online, and be able to get out of the fulfillment side of their own business and step into more of an owner role by leveraging systems. So I would happily have that conversation, just a free consultation to see if it's something I can help with, or even to be able to point you in the right direction so you can help yourself. I love talking shop, so don't be afraid to hit me up.
Great.
And let's do it.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, so our website is momentummarketing.agency. It's pretty much the same handle on all social medias, so just look us up and let's chat.
And gives a lot of free information on lead generation and digital marketing and a lot of other good tips and tricks for your business. With that being said, thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you back as my first guest after a little bit of a sabbatical. And we are going to sign off. We're going to count it down from 3, 2, 1.